Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey there, and welcome back to the Event Crushed podcast. This is your host, Becky. As always, I am so happy to be here today, and I hope that your 2025 is off to a fantastic start. It is so wild to me that we are already 2 weeks into the new year, and it's just kind of flying by. But hopefully your first couple of weeks of 2025 have just been really wonderful, and you are getting lots of inquiries and lots of bookings, and things are just ramping up for the upcoming wedding season. And one of the things I wanted to share in today's short episode was one about my word of the year. I had shared a little bit about the idea of a word of the year in episode 36, where I shared about the annual Big Ideas retreat that me and Andrew do each year. And part of that is defining our word of the year for the upcoming year. And so it's something I've been doing for the last several years. And I just think it's a really fun practice to kind of have a word that you're focusing on. So I wanted to share the word that I decided for this year and then kind of how it ties in with some of my goals for 2025. So the word that I chose is the word overflow. And I think that word could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. It could mean, so many different things depending on the context, but I just wanted to share a little bit about what that word means to me and why I chose it. I kind of visualize a pitcher that is pouring water into a cup that's sitting on a table, and, the glass is getting so full, and then eventually, the water keeps pouring and it starts overflowing out of it. And I just kind of like that visual representation of overflow because it's what happens when we are just filled up. It's like we can't keep it all inside. We can't contain it. And so it just starts to spill out onto others and kind of has a dual part meaning for me. On one hand, I've shared a little bit, about my faith on here. I won't go into it super deep, but just the idea of a daily, practice of reading the Bible and prayer and journaling and all of that good stuff and how that fills me up. And then that, love of God spilling out onto others and God shining his light through me. So that is a part of it. But the other part that I wanted to share about too is more in a business sense. I have just been really poured into, over many years through mentors, through my business coach, through other business owners, my clients, of course, my family and my loved ones, my friends. And basically just my cup is full. There's a scripture that says my cup overflows in Psalm 23:5. And I just really want 2025 to be a year where I am just overflowing onto my community, sharing my wisdom and knowledge, connections, and all kinds of stuff. And so in a lot of ways, this podcast is a product of Overflow and just the general educational side of business that I have been getting into over this past year. It's all a product of Overflow in my own life and wanting to just give back to the wedding industry and the community and all of that. So another thing that ties into this that I wanted to share about is this brunch that I hosted last Sunday for 10 wedding planners. And it was here in Eugene. We went to a local restaurant here, and it was so cool because the gal at the restaurant who does the events, she upgraded us to a private room, which was amazing. And so we got to just come together as wedding planners and just connect and share. And it was just a truly wonderful experience. And I just that was an experience that really filled my cup. And we shared wedding horror stories. We shared wins from 2024 and goals for 2025. We asked questions and just learned from one another. There was like a wide range of experience levels and kind of different markets that we're working in. And so it was really cool to hear from everybody about, what's working for them and what they're doing this year and who their target market is and their ideal client and all of that. There's, I think, like a sacred bond between wedding planners because it's just such a unique thing that we do. And I think if you haven't like walked a mile in a wedding planner's shoes, it's just really hard to fully understand it. And that's why I think that when wedding planners get together, it's like, oh my gosh, you understand the stress that I deal with. And you understand what it's like running around on a wedding day, balancing and managing, 20 different things at a time. And like, you just get it. And I'm sure it's the same for, anyone in the industry. For photographers, it's like, you only understand it if you've done it. And that's why I just think it's so important to not just network and have community with wedding pros in general, but to have it with your own community and your own industry, because there's just nothing like that camaraderie. And I don't know, I think people get freaked out and they're like, well, they're my competition, so I can't be friends with them, or they're going to, steal my secrets and go use it and then steal my business. And it's just that scarcity mindset. And if you can get out of that scarcity mindset and switch it to an abundance mindset, which I'm sure we're all familiar with that concept, it is just really life-changing when you can accept the fact that maybe they are your competition, but there is more than enough business to go around. And people are going to keep getting married every single year. I mean, we made it through the pandemic. If we made it through that, I think we can get through literally anything. So I would just ask yourself, as we're in this new year, are you going to be going through 2025 with a scarcity mindset, or are you going to have an abundance mindset and finally start to have community with others in your industry and not feel threatened and not feel like you can't share or you can't be open or you can't be real and that you have to be guarded? Again, I know in my area, we're very, very blessed and lucky to have an amazing community of wedding pros. And I know that it's not like that everywhere, but there are people everywhere who share this mentality. And it's just a matter of finding those people. And yeah, because they exist. I mean, they're all over the place. So what is one small step you could take this week to foster community and build relationships? Maybe there is a local florist that you've been wanting to reach out to, but you've been putting it off. Or is there a photographer that you've been wanting to ask to collaborate on a shoot with, but you've been too scared to ask? Or maybe it's just simply reaching out to a planner friend and grabbing coffee. Now is really the best time of year for reaching out and doing these one-on-one get-togethers. I think I have like 5 different meetings this month, just one-on-one with various vendors. And I just, group settings are great. Like we meet with my networking group once a month. It's fantastic, but getting together one-on-one or, maybe a couple or a few people together where you can really dig in and talk and get to know each other and share what's really going on and how you can support one another. I just think that is a whole different ballgame of value, and it's so important. So if you are networking, that's fantastic, but maybe you can level up your networking by doing some of these one-on-one get-togethers. I think if I don't know what your 2025 goals are, but I think that networking and expanding your presence at networking events and get-togethers and, coffee meetups, like that's a fantastic goal for 2025 if it's not already on your list. So maybe consider adding that as something that you can be working on. And if you already are like crushing it in that area, then obviously you know that. And there's other things you could be working on. I also wanted to add, there's so much value in getting together face to face, but maybe you live somewhere that's a little more rural and it's, harder to get into town. At the very least, like a virtual call is always a great option too. You could even, I think it's really sweet when people are like, oh, I'll buy you a coffee and we'll have a virtual meeting, and you can send like a $10 Starbucks gift card and they can buy a coffee beforehand and you guys can have coffee together. So I always think that's so fun. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to share today. Like I said, short and sweet One other thing I wanted to mention is that I have this networking guide that I had put together a while back, and I just wanted to share that here on the podcast. So it's just a free download. I'll put a link in the show notes. All you have to do is just sign up for my email newsletter, and then you will get immediate access to that free guide. So definitely check it out. There's lots of great tips and actionable ideas in there to up your networking game for 2025. All right, my friends. Well, I hope you have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you back here again next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now get out there and crush it.